In Uruguay, workers' unions demonstrated against the pension reform bill promoted by the government of Luis Lacalle Pou. The United Kingdom, rail and postal workers, nurses, and other union members are planning new industrial actions throughout the end of the year holidays and into 2023. Ethiopia's national carrier Ethiopian Airlines announced it would resume commercial flights to the war-torn region of Tigray after an 18-month shutdown. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news, and we do so in Uruguay. The Inter-Union Workers' Plenary National Workers' Convention demonstrated this Tuesday against the pension reform bill promoted by the government of Luis Lacalle Pou. The Workers' Trade Union Center is calling for a comprehensive solidarity and dignified social reform. The proposal of the retirement bill must be voted in the Senate, where it must count on the majority votes of the parties that make up the government coalition. The protesters reject the official initiative that proposes to work more to retire, but more less income, as well as cuts to disability pensions, surviving spouses, and other benefits. On the other hand, they point out that the major reforms must be decided among all and in favor of the great majorities. Several hospitals in Haiti are reducing their services on Tuesday due to the persistent fuel crisis and the shortage of supplies in the formal market. Almost 2 months after the unblocking of the country's main oil terminal, only a few gas stations are operating, with some of them selling fuel at higher prices than the officially stipulated, while the authorities ignore them. According to gas station owners, the importing companies force them to pay for the fuel in US dollars, although they then charge it in local currency. In view of this situation, hospitals reduce non-essential services to adjust their budgets. Mark Edson Agustin, director of the Saint Luc Hospital, said that from November 2021 to last September, prices have almost quadrupled, and during the most critical period of shortages, they came to pay up to $13 per gallon of diesel. On Tuesday, the government of Colombia launched the campaign Salvemos la Selva, which in English translates to Save the Rainforest, through which the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development seeks to raise awareness to stop deforestation in the country. According to official figures, over 3 million hectares of forests have been raised in Colombia in the last 21 years and 1.8 million hectares in the Amazon alone. In this region, more than 500 trees are lost for each deforested hectare, and in view of this, the Minister of Environment invites all the communities of the country, and especially those of the Amazon Arc in the south of Meta, Caqueta, Guaviare, and Putumayo, to save the rainforest. The government of President Gustavo Petro is firmly committed to making changes in the national environmental policy in the face of the current ecological crisis. In Ecuador, a 4.1 magnitude earthquake shook the province of Guayas in the southwest of the country. According to the National Service of Risk and Emergency Management, the quake epicenter was located 6.6 kilometers from the municipality of Simón Bolívar. The quake was mildly felt in several localities. Risk and emergency management institutions reported the earthquake did not cause material damage or fatalities. Authorities called on the population to remain calm. On Monday, the Secretariat of Risk Management and National Contingencies of Honduras extended the green alert for another 72 hours due to the proximity of a cold front. The weather alert remains in place in Atlántida, Colón, Cortés, Islas de la Bahía, Santa Bárbara, and Lloro regions. The weather agency said in a statement that a cold air mass was moving across the national territory and added that the formation of a surface through would affect the north and northwest of the country, with fresh winds from the north, increased cloudiness, lower temperatures, and weak to moderate and scattered precipitations. For the remaining Honduran regions, isolated showers and light drizzle are forecast, while dry weather will prevail in the country's south. In Palestine, water flooded numerous houses in the neighborhood of Gaza City, but also Deir al-Balah and As-Sawaida. Local population joined the civil protection teams and workers from the different municipalities to help the affected families. Palestinian authorities accuse Israel of being partly responsible for opening its dams, causing water to flow into Palestinian lands. This is the second time so far this year that the Gaza Strip has been affected by flooding. Last November, an initial period of heavy rains raised the water level in the streets and homes in the city. According to a 2018 risk management plan, more than 200,000 Gazans live in flood-prone areas, which represent almost an eighth of the population. Let us take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Spain this year, 47 women have been murdered, 9 of these cases in the month of December alone. According to the government's delegation against violence, 2 of these femicides occurred on Christmas weekend. Since 2003, the organization has been keeping a record of femicides, and they have counted a total of 1,180 since its creation on December 28, 2004. The authorities report that most of the victims were executed by their former or current partners, and that 40% of them had already filed a complaint against their aggressor. Femicides in Mexico remain a rampant issue. From January to October in the state of Mexico alone, there were 120 cases of women killed because of their gender. In 2021, the country saw more than 1,000 femicides, second only to Brazil in Latin America, and on average 10 women or girls are killed daily. Experts and advocates say the uncontrolled killings and history of femicide can be attributed to deep-rooted cultural machismo, systemic gender inequality, and latent domestic violence. Some states have tried to address the problem by creating prosecutors' offices for gender crimes. Meanwhile, the federal government has declared more than 2,000 gender violence alerts since 2015 at the request of civil society groups. The alerts obligate local, state, and federal authorities to take coordinated emergency action in specific locations and to address biases and access to justice, prevention, and security measures. In Mexico, the Undersecretary of Health, Hugo López-Gatell, assured on Tuesday at the National Palace that the Cuban Abdala vaccine against COVID-19, which is being applied in the country, is one of the most effective in the world. At the morning press conference held by the Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the official quoted an article from the prestigious British group The Lancet Discovery Science about the Abdala immunogen, which extols its great virtues. López-Gatell explained that today's vaccines continue to be protective against the virus and its mutations, but stressed that there are few ones like the Cuban Abdala with effectiveness over 93%. The official highlighted his government's confidence in the vaccination scheme that includes it. On Tuesday, Prime Minister Fumio Kishida announced Japan will tighten its border controls for visitors from China beginning December 30th in response to a surge in coronavirus infections.
Amid reports of the rapid spread of infections in mainland China, information from central and local authorities, government or private organizations are largely different. The situation makes information gathering very difficult, and there are growing concerns in Japan. Considering this situation, we decide to introduce a temporary emergency measure to visitors from China. We will introduce this as soon as possible. This will come into effect at 12 a.m. midnight on December 30th.
In Southeast Asia, mosquitoes that transmit dengue fever and other diseases have developed a mutation that gives them greater resistance to chemicals. Japanese researchers studied specimens of the Aedes aegypti mosquito in dengue endemic areas, which they exposed to chemicals intended to kill or repel them. The scientists found that those in Vietnam and Cambodia develop a greater capacity for survival. Although Although the mutation was only detected in these two countries, the researchers warn of its spread to other areas of Southeast Asia, which would pose a serious and unprecedented threat to control of dengue and other diseases. Russia plans to extend its operation at the International Space Station for several more years, said Sergei Krikalev, Roscosmos Executive Director for Manned Space Programs. Krikalev explained that the U.S., as part of the project, offered to extend the International Space Station flight to all partner countries. Moscow has taken into account the technical feasibility of the Russian segment and has already decided to send the documents to the government for approval of the station's continued operation. Krikalev added that Roscosmos plans to extend its participation until 2028 for the time being and will be guided by the situation thereafter. The SOS Mediterranean charity said on Tuesday its Ocean Viking vessel rescued 113 people from the Mediterranean Sea off the coast of Libya. The Maritime Humanitarian Organization said the group, which included 30 unaccompanied minors and 23 women, was attempting to cross the Mediterranean on a rubber boat. The latest operation by the charity's rescue ship started on December 18th and will continue until January. According to Italian authorities, over 100,000 people have arrived by sea in Italy in 2022. As of December 23rd, some 40,000 more than the previous year. And we have more news coming up after a short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. More strikes on the horizon in the United Kingdom as rail and postal workers, nurses, and other union members are planning new industrial action throughout the end of the year holidays and into 2023. The country has faced massive strikes over the past weeks carried out by transport workers along with other service areas employees, demanding higher pay. The Royal College of Nursing, which organized nurse strikes last week, and on Tuesday announced further industrial action in England on January 18th and 19th. The RCN stated that ministers could avoid additional strikes by agreeing to enter talks about this year's National Health Service pay settlement of 19%. Saudi Arabia and Japan signed a memorandum of cooperation to focus on strengthening the circular carbon economy and its recycling hydrogen fuel ammonia. The pact, which aims to reduce emissions of polluting gases, was signed between the Saudi Arabian Minister of Energy, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, and the Japanese Minister of Industry, Yasutoshi Nishimura, in what is considered to be the first ministerial meeting of energy dialogue between the two countries. According to reports, both nations intend to accelerate the use of hydrogen in transportation. They also agreed to promote research and development of hydrogen and ammonia fuel technologies together with their use at local, bilateral, regional, and international levels. Saudi Arabia accounts for about 40% of Japan's crude oil imports as their largest supplier. The government of Iran announced the signing of a free trade agreement with the Eurasian Economic Union. The Iranian ambassador to Russia said that Tehran and the Eurasian table have concluded negotiations, so now the final document will be submitted for ratification to parliaments of the countries that make up the agreement. In this regard, Ministry of Industry, Mining and Trade, Amit Ghalibaf, said that at present Iran trades goods with the Eurasian Economic Table on the basis of a preferential trade agreement. The Iranian official added that the Eurasian bloc granted preferential tariff concessions for at least 500 Iranian products, while Tehran granted the same regime to some 400 products coming from the Union. Israeli occupation forces arbitrarily arrested 22 Palestinians in several locations from the West Bank. According to the Palestinian news agency Wafa, the Israeli military of the town of Beit Iba. Similar actions took place in the towns of Silwat, Beitin, and Jabba, where 22 Palestinians were arrested. Kadur Faris, the chairman of the Palestinian Prisoners Association, announced that the Silbat Sports Club was also raided during the military incursion in the city of Silbat, and the club's facilities were damaged. Faris added that the Israeli forces have stormed the club for the second time in the last 4 months. In Afghanistan, the country's Environmental Protection Agency warned Tuesday that the use of coal, plastic, and other materials for heating is the main cause of recent increase in air pollution in Kabul, the nation's capital. Experts said in a statement that the use of these materials to heat homes this winter, as well as increasing emissions of sulfur oxides from various sources, are the main culprits for the increase in the air pollution. Doctors also warned that this spike has brought on a slight increase in reported cases of pneumonia among children. They have also added that should the present situation continue, there will also be an increase in the number of patients with heart disease and other ailments caused by respiratory infections. Ethiopia's national carrier Ethiopian Airlines announced it would resume commercial flights to the war-torn region of Tigray on Wednesday after an 18-month shutdown. The announcement comes a day after an Ethiopian delegation made the first high-level government visit to the then rebel-held region since the signing of a peace deal last month. The airline, the biggest carrier in Africa, said on Tuesday that it would operate daily flights from the national capital, Addis Ababa, to the Tigrayan capital of Mekelle, as the schedule increases in frequency depending on demand. Aid has started trickling back into Tigray since the peace deal was signed on November 2nd, going some way to alleviating shortages of food, fuel, cash, and drugs. The war began in November 2020 when Minister Ahmed accusing the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, the region's ruling party, of attacking army bases. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.